Mhm.
Thank you everyone for joining us for the second session of the conference. Our first speaker today is Angelos Mefsout. Angelos Mefsout is a PhD candidate at the Department of History and Archaeology at the University of Crete, under the supervision of Professor Dimitrios Bosnakis. His forthcoming thesis deals with the spread of the cult of Apollo Delios in the Aegean. He completed his bachelor studies at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in the Department of History and Archaeology, from which he also graduated with an MA in Classical Archaeology. As a PhD candidate, he is the recipient
Там
of
мало,
various
там нам
fellowships and
саме
grants.
приучила, а там нам почині. Добре.
For the last 3 years, he has been working as an archaeologist in Greece. Currently, he is the recipient of the Fulbright Visiting Research Student Grant at Columbia University. And I welcome Andros Mifsud to give us his presentation entitled The Cult of Artemis in Thessalian Magnesia. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the kind introduction and for giving me this platform to present this subject, which is of special interest to me. My presentation aims at an overview of the known cults of Artemis in the area of Magnesia, as they can be distinguished by the different epithets of the goddess, as well as at an attempt to approximate the various factors which affected the evolution of those cults in the course of Magnesian history. Although the literary references regarding the cult of Artemis in Magnesia are extremely limited, the inscriptions, as well as the iconography of the goddess in sculpture and local numismatic issues, can restore at some scale a multifaceted picture of the goddess and her importance in this region. Furthermore, in cases where certain cults of Artemis can be associated with specific sanctuaries, a brief survey of the archaeological remains, and especially of the votive practices at those sanctuaries, can contribute to a more thorough understanding of those cults. Due to the fact that the majority of the epigraphic material related to the cult of Artemis is mostly of classical and Hellenistic date, it is inevitable that the majority of the data is confined to these relatively later periods. However, the comparison with material within and outside of Thessaly can lead to some thoughts regarding the cult of the goddess in earlier periods. After a very short overview of the topography and history of Magnesia, I will focus on some of the most important cults of Artemis in this region. The region of ancient Magnesia consisted of the peninsula of the modern-day prefecture of the same name at the eastern part of Thessaly. It's where I'm pointing right now with a pointer. It encompassed the mountain Spilion, which stretches across this long peninsula, Mavrovouni and Ossa at the north, and its northern borders were at the mouth of the Pinios River, right here. Its western borders extended between the mountains of Ossa to the north to the lake Vivis, modern-day Karla, to the south. While the whole western coastal region to the Aegean also was regarded as Magnesian territory. Although geographically part of Thessaly, Magnesia did not belong to the Thessalian regions per se, that is, the so-called tetrads, Pelagiotis here, Estiotis, Thessaliotis, and Phthiotis, but belonged to the so-called Periakic regions, together with Perivia in the north, Achaea Phthiotis in the southeast, and the ethni of Dolopians, Ennians, and Malians in the south. The Magnetes are described as a separate ethnos participating in the Delphic Amphictyony. However, for a long period of time, they were under Thessalian control and were known as Periiki. Among the known cities and settlements of Magnesia, some of the most important were Iolkos, at the innermost part of the Pagasetic Gulf, the cities of Omolion, right here, Evrymene, Melivia, and Castanea, at the eastern coast of Magnesia, as well as the cities of Methoni and Spalathra within the Pagasetic Gulf. The city of Pagase, which also gave the name to the Gulf, was part of Magnesia, but was under Phaeacian control under the 4th century BC. Phaerae is a city belonging to the Thessaliotis, and it's right here. An important milestone in the history and evolution of Magnesia was the foundation of the city of Dimitrias by the Macedonian king Dimitrios I Poliorkitis in the early years of the 3rd century BC, through the syncretism of various settlements in the area of the Pagasetic Gulf. After the formation of the Magnesian League in 191 BC, Dimitrias also became its official seat. The new city was a cosmopolitan harbor, attracting residents from many areas of the Greek world and the Eastern Mediterranean. Here you see a plan of the excavated sites of ancient Dimitrias. Moving to the main subject of the presentation, which is the religious aspect of Artemis in Magnesia. In the ancient Greek religious context, one of the most unequivocal indications regarding the significance of a particular cult in a specific area is the combination of a theonym with a toponymic divine epithet or epiclesis. These kind of epithets derive from the names of particular localities where a major shrine of the deity to which they refer to was located. In the case of Magnesia, Artemis bears two toponymic epithets which are exclusively attested in this area. Those are Iolkia, deriving from the city of Iolkos, and Pagasetis, deriving from the city of Pagasae. Both of those cities are connected to the mythical past of the Magnetes. Furthermore, their importance seems to be underlined by the fact that both of these cults continued to exist even after the locations to which they referred to had long diminished in importance. It is also worth noting that similar is the case with some Magnesian cults of Apollo, who is attested as Pagaseos, again an epithet deriving from Pagasae, Koropeos, deriving from Koropi, and Essonios from Essonis, all of those three cities, again, ancient localities. The first epithet, as I already said, derived from the city of Iolkos, the mythical starting point of the Argonauts. The city was inhabited since the Bronze Age and was located in the area of modern-day Volos, in the neighborhood of Castro Palea. You can see the site where Iolkos is located within the modern urban fabric of Volos. The intimate relations between the citizens of Iolkos, their local mythological traditions, and Artemis is evidenced by the iconography of the first bronze coinage of independent Iolkos, dated in the 4th century BC. The head of Artemis is depicted on the obverse and the prow of the mythical Argo on the reverse. The sanctuary of Artemis Iolkia was probably located near the modern church of Agii Theodori in the area of Castro Palea Volos. Here in the middle, you see a plan of the neighborhood of Castro Palea, which is still inhabited, but some parts of it have been excavated. And at number 3 is the location of the church. And in the vicinity of the church, there are some ruins that have been attributed to the sanctuary. Some remarkable architectural remains of a Doric temple, as well as inscriptions which are thought to have belonged to the sanctuary, have been found near the church. Among them, a part of a semicircular base, you see that on the top right of the screen, bearing a votive inscription to Artemis Iolkia and dated in the 2nd century BC. The cult was transferred to Dimitrios with the foundation of the new city in the early 3rd century BC. However, it remains uncertain whether the old sanctuary in Iolkos ceased to exist or continued operating as an extra-urban sanctuary. In Dimitrias, Artemis Iolkia became the tutelary deity of the new city. The tradition of Artemis as the main iconographic subject of the numismatic issues of Iolkos continued into the newly founded city. Following the same pattern, the coins of Dimitrios depict the head of Artemis on the obverse and a prow of a ship on the reverse. But this time, this is not the prow of Argo, but it is merely a reference to the naval power of Dimitrias, since the port of Dimitrias was for the Macedonians a major naval base as well as an important commercial center. And here within the plan of Dimitrios, you can see the location of the temple at number 4. The temple was located in the area between the royal palace and the southern fortification wall. There, the foundations of a small peripteral Ionic temple have been excavated. According to epigraphic testimonies, the temple formed part of the so-called sacred agora, the Ieri Agora, functioning at the same time as an epiphanestos topos for the setting up of important decrees. Some later numismatic issues of the Magnesian League could possibly provide some evidence in relation to the iconography of the cult statue of Artemis Iolkia. Franke, based on numismatic issues of the imperial period depicting a seated female figure, proposed that they could depict the cult statue of the goddess. On the earlier issues of the 2nd century AD, with the earliest one dated during the reign of Antoninus Pius, the goddess is depicted seated on a throne, holding an object, possibly a libation bowl, in her projected right hand, while in her left hand she holds an arrow. Behind her left shoulder, part of her quiver is visible. The quiver and the arrow are missing on some later issues, but they reappear again at the latest issues of the 3rd century AD. Artemis Iolkia seems to have been important not only for the city of Dimitrios, but also for the Magnetes as a whole. After the formation of the Magnesian League in the 2nd century BC, of which Dimitrios became the official seat, Artemis Iolkia, together with Apollo Koropeos and Zeus Acreos, became the tutelary divine triad of the League, under the auspices of which appointed officials made their vows. The importance of these gods is further reinforced by their frequent appearance on coins issued by the League. As is the case with the older issues of Iolkos and Dimitrias, the depictions of Artemis are again combined with naval and maritime symbols, indicating her close association with maritime affairs as Neosos, that is, the rescuer of ships. This probably is a reference to the Argonauts and to the ancient myths of Iolkos, where again Artemis was associated with Argo as a naval symbol. We now move to the second cult of Artemis with a toponymic epithet. A votive stele of the 2nd century BC, found again in Castro Palea and possibly brought from Dimitrias, mentions Artemis Pagasitis. Based on the epithet, it is quite safe to assume that the cult must have existed in the city of Pagase, which was among the cities syncretized for the creation of Dimitrias, and could thus be transferred among others to the new city. This epithet, as well as that of Iolkia, is attested only in this area. Pagase, at least before 510 BC, formed part of the territory of Phere and was the port of the Thessalian city of Pelasgiotis. Pagase became independent of Pherean control in the 4th century BC, but it is very probable that the Thessalian influence in the cultic matters must have been particularly strong. The aforementioned inscription can be included within this context. The votive inscription features the term nevevsasa, which characterizes the woman that made the dedication. This dedication is the only attestation of this term in Magnesia, which is usually found in dedications to Artemis under different epithets or without in Pelasgiotis. All the surviving examples are dated from the late 3rd to the 2nd century BC. It has been proposed that the term nevevsasa is a participle of the verb nevevo, meaning act like a phone. Based on this interpretation, it has been suggested that similarly to the ritual bears the Arcti of Ravron, Artemis was worshipped in Thessaly as a goddess of fertility and protector of pregnancy. The Brabron ritual, as well as the Thessalian examples, perhaps indicate that there was a ritual service, during which the female devotees would be equated with the sacred fauns of the goddess, thus bearing that title. The young women were dedicated to the goddess and were regarded as sacred property of Artemis. According to another interpretation, the participle derives from the adjective neos, meaning young. The aforementioned adjective, neos, and the reference of Issicius to foot races made by Ne in Macedonia could indicate the existence of foot races in some sanctuaries of Artemis, in which only girls participated as part of their ritual passage into adulthood. By taking into account the surveying data, we are led to the following thoughts. So we are sure that the epithet reveals a connection of this cult with Pagase. As is the case with Artemis Iolkia, the cult must have been transferred into the new city of Dimitrias. The term nevevsasa, on the dedication from Dimitrias, appears elsewhere in Thessaly only in dedications from Pelasgiotis, dated in the Hellenistic period. Pagase, although geographically a part of Magnesia, was under Thessalian control until the 4th century BC, as territory of Phere, also a part of Pelasgiotis. Consequently, it could be suggested that an older Magnesian cult of Artemis Pagasitis was associated with the religious custom of the Nevevsase during the Thessalian control of Pagase, that is, before the 2nd quarter of the 4th century BC, when Pagase became independent. After the foundation of Dimitrias in the early 3rd century BC, the cult was transferred into the new city, bearing all the elements that it had obtained during the integration of Pagase into Pelasgiotis. Nevertheless, it must be noted that no dedication mentioning the Nevevsase has been found in Phere itself, while all the known examples from Pelasgiotis are dated later than the period of the Pherean occupation over Pagase. We now move to another case from Dimitrias, which more evidently shows the different influences on the cult of Artemis in the context of the new city. In the southern cemetery of Dimitrias, right next to the city fortification walls and close to one of the main gates, a number of deposits belonging to a sanctuary were discovered. The finds from these deposits indicate that the ritual activities in the sanctuary lasted approximately from the 3rd century BC until the 2nd to 3rd century AD. The assemblage from the deposits includes a group of terracotta figurines depicting boys wearing chlamys and kafsia. You see 3 of those figurines on the top right of the screen wearing this characteristic Macedonian hat, the kafsia. A large number of female figurines a small number of marble sculptures, including the head of a female cult statue, as well as a group of marble statuettes and inscribed dedications, such as bases, steels, and small altars. The majority of the inscribed dedications have been made in honor of Pasikrata. This epiclesis characterizes a deity that oversees and controls everything. Outside of Dimitrias, and especially in Macedonia and Epirus, this epiclesis is usually attested as an epithet of Artemis. One small inscribed altar bears a dedication to Artemis Enodia, while some of the marble statuettes possibly represent Artemis Enodia based on the iconographic attributes and the altar found within the same context. The votive statuettes are dated in the late Hellenistic and Roman periods. The goddess appears striding to the left or to the right and standing wearing a short chiton, a himation, and an evris, a fawn skin, sometimes holding a torch. You see this iconography very evidently at the statue at the left, where the goddess is standing wearing the nevris and the short chiton, and she's holding a very tall torch. Artemis Enodia belongs in a group of divinities whose name is composed of two separate theonyms. This particular cult links the goddess again with the Thessalian city of Phere, which, as has been already noted, was part of Pelasgiotis and for a long period included in its territory the area of the Magnesian city of Pagasae. Enodia, also known as the Pherean goddess, was the tutelary deity of the city of Phere. The major chorotrophic aspect of her, and this goddess had the major chorotrophic aspect, which resulted quite often in her identification with Artemis, with the two goddesses sharing many properties and iconographic traits. It seems that the identification of the Thessalian Enodia with Artemis led to the creation of the cult of Artemis Enodia in the city of Phere, from where it spread outside Thessaly and throughout the Greek world. The fact that the area of Pagasae and future founding spot of Dimitrias was under the control of Phere for quite a long period can perhaps explain the existence of the cult of Enodia in the area and the continuation of her cult under the guise of Artemis Enodia in the newly founded city. The cult in Dimitrias seems to have been particularly focused on the safe growth of children and their protection, based on the large number of figurines of children. This chorotrophic aspect, common for Artemis and Enodia, explains the syncretism in the sanctuary. In addition, taking into account the connection of the Pasikrata epiclesis with Artemis in Macedonia and Epirus, it is possible that in Dimitrias, this epiclesis accompanied again Artemis, underlining her role as a safeguard of young women and children. To sum things up, it is possible that the cult of Artemis Enodia existed in the area before the foundation of Dimitrias by the Macedonians and was combined with the cult of Pasikrata due to their shared common properties. Pasikrata, either as an epiclesis of Artemis or as a separate deity, as attested in Macedonia and Epirus, perhaps indicates the origin of the cult from the part of the Greek world. It could have reached Magnesia at the time of the foundation of Dimitrias, or it could just be a simple cult epiclesis that seemed appropriate for the deity worshipped in the sanctuary. In conclusion, based on the mostly epigraphic and archaeological material related to the cult of Artemis in Magnesia, we are led to the following remarks. First of all, the toponymic epithets of Iolkia and Pagasitis, deriving from the cities of Iolkos and Pagase respectively, are attested only in Magnesia and reveal the local significance that Artemis had for those cities of the region separately, but also for the ethnos of the Magnetes as a whole. Next to this local and regional background, the presence of the Thessalian element is also very prominent, with epithets and ritual practices coming from other cities of Thessaly, especially Phere in the case of Artemis Enodia, and the region of Pelasgiotis in the case of the Nevepsase. The rule of the Thessalian city of Phere over a part of Magnesia for a long time undoubtedly played an important role in this intertwining of cult elements. The foundation of Dimitrias was also crucial. The new political status not only led to the influx of Macedonian cult characteristics into the religious background of Magnesia, but at the same time contributed to the consolidation of the Magnesian identity. Through the syncretism of Dimitrias, with the unification of the small communities of Magnesia and the introduction of the cults in the new city, some local cults were strengthened against others. This phenomenon becomes more apparent in the institution of a sacred trinity of tutelary deities within the Magnesian League, with Artemis Iolkia being associated with other deities bearing toponymic epithets in relation to ancient sanctuaries of the region. The new religious reality is also reflected on the numismatic issues of the League, with Artemis playing a leading role in their iconography. Nevertheless, despite the strong local character of Artemis, her cult does not cease to bear typical characteristics that can be found in other parts of the Greek world, as a goddess who nurtures and protects young women and children. Consequently, in the case of Magnesia, we can observe the flexibility that characterized the worship of Artemis and its adaptability both to the local peculiarities and to the various needs of the faithful, which is due to the wide range of qualities brought by this polyonymous goddess. And with these closing remarks, I would like to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Angelos.
Thank you.